Hey folks, it's Tom, your Frugal Prepper. So this video was a misdiagnosis, but I think it still has some good electrical troubleshooting steps in it. I think it's still a worthwhile video how to troubleshoot something. But I troubleshooted this initially as a bad ignition switch. I should have pulled that switch out and manually turned it with a screwdriver to make sure. I did not. I put an ignition switch in it. I still had the same issue, and it turns out it's the gears in the lock cylinder housing that were bad, not allowing the switch to turn completely. But I think the video still has merit. This is one of those cases where I did a confirmed diagnosis. I bought the part, I put it in, I was wrong. You can't return electrical parts to Advance once they've been opened and installed. And so I ate this part and came out with a workaround for the customer because they didn't really have the money or the time to replace that lock cylinder housing. Hey folks, it's Tom, your Frugal Prepper. I'm out here trying to diagnose an intermittent no start on this Ford Focus. Sometimes it starts perfect. When she brought it over the other day, we started a couple times, starts perfect. But it wasn't starting before that, and her neighbor banged on the starter with a hammer and it started. So, I'm 90% sure it's probably a bad starter, dead spot in it. However, it's not starting now. I banged on the starter, it don't start. So I'll take you over here and show you what we're going to go through on this. Okay, so what I've done so far, just a quick check. Before I did anything else, this gray wire, whoa, the camera's going to fall, hang on. Tiny little cars. Alright. So what I did first is this gray wire right here goes down to the starter solenoid. So before I even unplugged this, I just back probed it, turned the key, didn't light up. I put my test light between there and ground and, gave it a crank, didn't start up. So I unplugged it, I went right into the front of the connector here. It's a nice big connector. I just front probed it lightly, started it, no nothing. No lighting up. So it's not putting out any voltage. So the starter is not getting signal. The next thing I did just to verify that we've got a good ground path through the starter solenoid is I come down to this gray wire, which is leading down to the starter, hook my test light to positive, and we check that out, and we do have a good ground path going down through the solenoid. So the starter solenoid electrically is okay. So let me go pull out the wiring diagrams and I'll show you what we're going to check next, so that we can follow this back and see where we've lost starting signal. Alright, I'm sorry, my workbench is complete disaster right now, but it's been crazy busy. Like, everybody is like, oh, there's a plague, we have to fix our car. I don't know. All the shops are closing down too. I think it's another big part of it. This diagram here, let me get a pointing device. Alright, so what we see is we have this starter relay. So this is our wire. This was our connector that we unplugged. This goes down to the starter. We know that this point back has a good ground path, and we're not getting any signal here. This comes from the starter relay, right, to provide that power. And so you've got the control side of the starter relay, right, and that comes back down through here, over to here, right, to get that starting signal. So we need to see if on pin 2 we're getting a signal, but then pin 3 comes back through here back to the battery. So we need to see if we're getting that. And then, oh, this might be the manual transmission one. Is this manual or? Should be a, oh yeah, I got the manual transmission one. I'll print the automatic out because this wire on the automatic goes back through the neutral safety switch. But first I'm just going to start here at number 2, see if we have a signal on that relay, and then I'll go over here to number 3 and see if we're getting voltage to this guy, which should probably be always hot. It depends on this logic over here, but at least when it's in start, this should be hot and this should get control. And so if I look, this control goes to the PCM, so that most likely gets pulled to ground. Let's see, and this is coming from the PCM as well, so I don't see a full-time hot or positive, but this should either get pulled to, this probably gets pulled to ground, and this is probably hot. So we're just going to see if we have anything here and here, so on 2 and 3. Alright, I'm more of a GM guy, and number 1, GM labels their freaking fuse boxes. So I found this diagram. I'm looking for this starter relay, which is this one right here. I'm going to see if I've got the right adapter for that guy. I got my Lyle fuse adapters. I believe that this is the one that we're looking for that starter relay. So let's go hook this guy up and see what we can figure out. So there's number 2 right here and number 3 over here, so the 2 corners. There's where we want to check. Alright, so I'm looking at this guy. He goes this way actually. So starter relay. Here, the starter relay is going to be where these 2 are. It's going to be this one right here. Yeah, no, here, this one. Yeah, this one's our starter relay, closest to these 2. So let's pull this guy out. Boy, she's in there. Let me get some pliers. Oh, my tools are all sweating. It's super cold yesterday and last night. And now it's really warm and humid, and they're just all sweating. Okay. Everything looks okay there so far. This has got the 3rd pin. There's just an empty spot where that 3rd pin can go in, so it won't hurt anything. So again, I want to check number 3 and number 2. So it's these 2. Alright, so first I'm just going to see. Let me go get my diagram. First I want to see if we're getting power to number 3 right here that powers that relay. So let's go to number 3. That's 2, so this one's number 3. We'll clip it on the other side here. Not shorting it. Don't short, don't short, don't short. Okay. And this stupid thing is annoying as crap. Stupid Fords. I hate Fords. Alright. So, that should be positive. So I'm just going to hook my test light to a negative. Get on the negative there. Okay. And we're going to hook this right there. And so we got power coming to number 3. So we're good there. So now I need to see, that must be full-time power, which I kind of expected it would be. Although I didn't know what was going on with the PCM down here. If it was because it provides that side. I'm going to follow this around. Okay, it comes from the smart junction box. Okay. So now number 2, I believe, should probably pull to ground to control that relay. So I'm going to hook this to positive on my test light. And you want to do this through a test light so that you can't overload it. Limits the current. Because this could be positive or ground control on number 2. It could be pulling the current through that control back here to ground, or it could be sticking it the other way off of pin 1. But let's go ahead and see what happens when I turn the key now. If that light lights up. I get nothing. Let me get in here. So I'll move this test light up where I can kind of see it from the driver's seat, because I want to hit the brake too. Some of these cars won't start unless you got your foot on the brake, although I don't see that in the diagram. Okay, so that's with the test light going to ground off of pin 2. So we're going to take the test light, or positive, so we're going to take the test light and go to ground, see if that circuit runs the other way. I doubt it does, but see if that lights up there. Okay, I got nothing. Got nothing. So that tells me that I've got no control to this starter relay. That means I need to check on pin 1 now and see if I have voltage and or ground here. Okay, so right now I'm doing pin 1 to see if I have a ground available. I guess before I get too far along, let's just make sure the test light's working. It is, okay. So I'm going over to that guy, back to ground. My test light. Okay, let me try that to positive. Okay, so I'm getting no control on this guy, and I don't seem to have anything else on that guy either. These all come from the powertrain control module. So it's possible that the PCM only lights these up. You know, it only provides the ground path and that stuff to the control side of the relay when it sees that it's in start, right? So maybe it's not seeing that it's in start. So, you know, we have some other things on this because clutch switch, that kind of stuff. Let me go pull up the one for the automatic transmission and print that out real quick. So we're going to have to go a little farther in, a little deeper into this. Alright, so I have voltage here on number 3. I'm not getting this signal or that signal on this relay. I'm getting nothing here. Alright, so what I want to do first is make sure I have the starter relay. Right, so if we look at this number 3 where we are getting voltage, this comes back and goes through fuse F11. So I'm going to clip onto that where I have voltage, pull F11 and see if my voltage drops. Then I know I at least got the right relay. I'm working off of diagrams here because Ford is dumb and they don't label their fuse boxes. Then if I've got this switch here, the transmission range sensor, but I'm not going to go straight for that because the ignition switch down here, right, it comes up, it should provide voltage here, comes back into the powertrain control module. At the same time, the powertrain control module would then energize this circuit, which comes back through here and energizes this. The powertrain control module knows to do that based off of this signal right here. Right, so I want to see if I'm getting signal out of the ignition starter switch. That's, from what I'm seeing, the only way. I'm not going to get control here or control there on either side of this is I'm not getting the correct input to the PCM from this ignition switch, most likely. So we're going to go ahead and check that and see. So I got to find C213 or C250 here, check those. I'll just pick whichever one's easiest to get to for the initial test. And but first I'm going to make sure and verify I have this correct relay. Again, I'm going to go on pin 3. I'm going to unplug fuse F11 and see if my voltage goes away, and I know I have the right relay then because I'm working off of diagrams because Ford doesn't label anything. Okay, so we come back here with our wire hooked to our test light and our test light on ground, and we clip onto pin 3. I see, like, oh, my test light is lit up, right? Oh, my test light's all lit up there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull fuse F11 Right, and I just have to find F11 because they don't label crap on here. It might be number 11. I don't know. See, I think it's this guy right here. Yep. So we're on the right starter relay. Okay, and this another thing I'll check right here quick is where is the diode for the one-touch start. So one-touch integrated diode, boom, right here. So it's this top one right below this 10 amp fuse. And to test the diode, I'm just going to come here. Diode will pass current one direction, but not the other. Yep, so the diode is good. And this is keyed, so it only goes in one way. Okay. So we know that diode's good anyway. Easy quick check. We know we're getting voltage to the starter relay. We're just not getting a control signal from it. So now I'm going to go and find where those two connectors are, see if we can test for signal from the ignition key. Alright, so here's what I'm after. Get this connector C213 or C250. So I looked up the locations on those. C213 is like back here in this big pile of connectors under the dash somewhere. Don't really want to have to go there. So C250 is right here on the back of this ignition switch. I think popping the cover off of the steering column is probably the fastest way to go. See if we're getting a signal out of that guy. From what I'm looking, this seems to be a pretty common issue on these Ford Focuses, so I'm betting that's probably what's going on. Okay, so we had a big cloud burst or thunderstorm here, but basically I got this off. It's this blue-white wire right here. I went ahead and just threw a wire piercing probe on it real quick, and then I'm going to go ahead and check it to see if we're getting any signal here. Oh, tiny cars. Alright. So I've got my test light hooked to a ground. Test light here. Crank this on. And I got nothing. Okay. So one of these coming in here has got to be the positive too. We can check that real quick. I believe it's this top one. So I got power there on the main coming in. Now let me check the feed for the start circuit. Okay, and nothing. I got nothing. Nothing. That means that if I provide power to this circuit with the ignition in the on position, this thing should start. Let me go put the relay back in and let's see. Alright, so I got higher amperage test light I'm putting on this guy. Oh, you know what? I got the starter unplugged still. Hang on. Okay, now let's plug back in. Now we should be able to come out. We'll try the blue. This is the higher amperage side. Keys on. No start. Feed it under the switch for the test light. She fires up. It's got a bad ignition switch. Now we know. Alright, so I'll get them a price on that and see if they want to get it fixed. Alright, so I misdiagnosed the crap out of that. And my wheel bearing is going out in the Pontiac. I need to replace that. So the problem is that there's the key when you're turning it isn't engaging the switch enough. So after I put the new lock cylinder switch in, and yes, I put it in, still didn't start. What the crap? So I hooked the old one up and I turn it with the screwdriver, boom, engages, starts up. And so if you take and hold on to the piece on this side of the column and turn the key over here, you can feel it's really loose. And so after a little Googling around, finds out that that's a really common problem on cheap ass dumb Fords. And so you've got to replace that whole middle piece. I've got to order it like $150 for a real one. It's the cheapest I could find. For a fake one, you can get them for like $100 and some, but you know, it's Dorman Chinese crap. Of course, it can't be that much worse than Ford crap. So I talked to the customer. Of course, I'm going to eat the cost of the part that I bought already. That's just me. You know, that's how I do it. If I diagnose it wrong, you know, you win some and you lose some. So I'm going to hook up a push button for them so that they can just hit that button and start their car. I'm following a state trooper that's looking at me like, why are you talking to yourself? Hopefully that'll get them all, you know, going for now. Just put the key in the run position, hit the button, and boom, you're good to go. And then later, if they want to fix it right, they can. Or if that's good enough for them, that's good enough, right? And that'll just get them out for, you know, I'm just going to let them have it for my hour of diagnostic labor, because I done screwed up at this point. You know, I feel bad. But, you know, it is what it is. These things happen. You know, you try to do the best diagnostic job that you can, but I have one more step farther I needed to go, which was to pull that lock cylinder out and inspect that. Actually turn it by hand. And I didn't do that, and I know better. But anyway, I just thought I'd update you. I'll show you the completed repair when I'm all done here. Now I'm trying to run up and find a push button for this guy. And apparently AutoZone is not critical or something. They're closed for the pandemic. So I'm going to see if Advance or O'Reilly's is open. Like, you know, if you just stay away from people and don't touch too much stuff, try not to use cash, you know, like, I get it. People probably walk up to the parts counter and start coughing all over people, but man, I'll be glad when this pandemic crap's all over and I can ride roller coasters again. Alright, so I got the switch. I got it just before they closed. Everything's closing early because of the pandemic, and like, it doesn't make any sense, because it makes far more sense for me to go to the store like at 10:30 at night when it's open till 11 normally, when there's not very many people there, right? You want to extend the hours so that people can be more spread out, not cram them all into a 4-hour session so that everybody runs for toilet paper and gets each other sick. Just dumb. It's a dumb day. Dumb Fords and dumb pandemic and dumb stores. But at least Advance is open. You know, AutoZone just shut their doors. Like, screw you guys, we're going home. So yeah, I got this little push button switch we're gonna put in there and make this thing work and get it going so she can get back on the road. Alright, I'll see y'all in a little bit.